Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. This is Fred, the submarine guy, coming to you from on behalf of submarineguy.com. Hope everybody had a great New Year's Eve and getting back into the swing of things here. 2018 is going to be a great year for us here. This video is going to go on top of my blog post, which I put out this morning called 10 Ways to Improve Your Email Open Rates. I just had a couple of additional tips I wanted to pass along. They don't necessarily go with your email open rates, but they affect your email opens and things like that. So I thought it would be appropriate to put on top of this blog post. Number one, how to get 50% more opens on every email. Here's a little tip I use on almost every time. That I send out an email to my list or even part of my list is I do what I call a rescind. And the way I do it is I use Aweber, of course, and in Aweber you can look at the statistics of a previous email. So if I look at, say, this 10 ways to improve your email open rates tomorrow, and I look at the statistics and let's say 100 people opened it or so, then what I do is I'll copy that email and change the subject line by one or two or three words, and I'll tell you how to do that in a second, and then save it and send it to the people who didn't open it the first time. And every time I have done that for the last 6 months, I got another 50% of people that opened it. So if I got 100 the first time, I'd get another 50 on the second ones. And the click rates and everything are almost exactly the same. I mean, it's just incredible that I didn't think of this earlier, and I'm sure somebody has, but I wanted to put it out because I hadn't seen it in anybody's tips or trainings or anything. And it's not like you're sending to people who have already seen or opened the email, that kind of thing, but you're probably sending it to people who get tons of email. You know, I get hundreds of emails every day, and if you send me something and I don't see it the first time, I'm likely to have deleted it by, if it's 6 or 8 hours since you sent it, and I don't check my email till then or something. Also, you might not hit um, the the right words in the subject line or something for somebody to open it the first time, but if you send it with a word or two different, you might hit it. The word or two you have to add is mainly to the subject line is mainly to get past the Google feature that will group emails in in your email program with the same subject line. So if you hit reply and send an email to somebody and they hit reply, all those are grouped. 3 or 4 or 5 emails might be grouped in one. You don't want that to happen because they might group it. You don't want that to happen so that it doesn't group itself with the previous email. But if you just change the subject line, I usually put the words in brackets and I'll say resend or did you see or don't miss or something like that, just to kind of change up make a little sense of why I'm resending it. And you don't have to hide that you're resending it, but just to put those words in there so that the email filters in Google won't group it with the previous one. So that's number one. Get 50% more opens just by resending the email to the people that didn't open it the first time. One other tip on that: my email list usually opens my email within 24 hours. About 80% of them open it within the first 2 hours, 3 hours, depending on the time of day. And then there's a trickle, for the next 10 or 12. And by 24 hours, nobody's going to open it pretty much. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't get the guy 3 weeks later who opens up an email and emails me back on it or puts a comment on it or whatever on the blog post or whatever. That happens every now and then. But for the most part, 99% of the time, people open my email within the first 24 hours. So I can safely go in the next day and send to all the no opens or the people that didn't open it to get that extra 50%. So make sure you do a resend on your emails, get that extra 50%. Number two tip for today is you can reuse an email inside of, for instance, Aweber, the program I use, and I'm sure other programs let you do the same. And basically what I do is I open up an email that I previously sent if I want to draft a new one, and I put it in the drafts folder, and that way if I've got like my picture in the footer and you know, some footer information like name and address and phone number and all that kind of stuff in there, and I've got my font color and my font type and size, all that's already selected, I'll open up a previous email and use that so I don't have to do reformatting. And all you got to do is just change the subject line to your current one. You can keep the mail merge codes in there so you don't have to remerge reselect those. It just makes it easier and more consistent for your emails. Now, if you're typing in all text only font, of course that doesn't really matter unless you want to save like your subject line or your footer and things like that. But that's just a tip to make things go a little faster for you. I also use what I call see, copy, and add. See a good email or subject, I copy part of it and then I add it to my email series. And specifically, I like to have email series in my follow-up series to entice people to take another look, or 3 months down the road to, hey, you were interested at one time in XYZ product or program. And then what I do is I use the see, copy, add to add to those legacy email follow-up list with a new idea, a new topic, a new twist on things. And again, you can use the reuse and modify technique by opening up a previous email in drafts and then saving it with a different file name. But that way, if you see a neat idea from some guru who's got a great subject line and a great article kind of thing, you can kind of use or modify that idea and use it for your own list. So see, copy, and add when you see great stuff. And number 4 is don't be afraid to screw up. And I'll tell you, I always tell stories on myself. I drafted 10 ways to improve your email open rates over the last week. I finished it up last night, put it into a blog post. I copied and pasted it from Word like I always do. I corrected a few things here and there, made it look real nice. And then I tried something new, and this is where I screwed up. I drug a few pictures from Pixabay over to my blog post, and they seemed to paste themselves in pretty well, and I could resize them and move them around and that kind of stuff. And I saved the document out in WordPress, and then I always look at it to make sure it looks okay. It looked fine, and I thought, okay, I'm good to go. And so I put the URL to the blog post in the email that went out to everybody, and that was last night when I actually set up the email, and it went out at 10 o'clock this morning. Well, at 10 o'clock this morning, I was at the car store getting a couple of new tires for my car, and I pulled up my phone while I was waiting, and I thought, oh, hey, my email went out. Let's see how everything looks. And I clicked on the first link, and the blog post was all screwed up. The pictures were not there. There was some placeholder for Pixabay. They're in the wrong place, and one of the paragraphs was on top of another one. So the text, you couldn't even read the text of the two paragraphs because they were on top of each other. I have no idea how that happened, but it had something to do with the Pixabay copy and paste thing that I wasn't supposed to do. So the email sat there like that, going to a really badly formatted blog post that you couldn't even read for at least 2 or 2.5 hours till I got home and corrected the blog post. Just FYI, if you're using WordPress, one of the things you have to do is get the pictures and videos and audios or whatever kind of media you have in the WordPress media file, which is inside of WordPress. Obviously, it's easy to do, but I hadn't done that with the Pixabays because I just used a copy and paste technique and didn't get them in the media file. Well, I don't know why they look good, when I did it and then screwed themselves up later, but they did. So now I know, make sure you got the pictures or any kind of media in the media file inside of WordPress before you try to link them into a WordPress blog post. But The key there is don't be afraid to screw up. Hey, I screw up all the time. Uh, I even tell you about my screw ups because there's generally something to learn from them. Don't be afraid to screw it up. You can always admit it. You usually get more credibility by admitting mistakes than anything else. Anyway, that's the 4 tips for today that goes with the 10 ways to improve your email open rates. Make sure you like and thumbs up the video here on my YouTube channel, and subscribe to the channel so you can get these videos notification automatically. And if you have some comments on the 10 ways to improve your email open rates, you can feel free to comment on the blog. Have a great day.